walk it like I talk it. Walk it like I talk it. Yeah. Take my shoes and walk a mile, something that you can't do. Woo. Hey.
They're extremely influential in their communities, whether they're delegates or community organizers or teachers. Their impact is beyond themselves. But you can't attack them individually. You don't attack their patriotism. You don't attack their integrity.
Doug, what's your response to these comments from the president that if players don't stand for the national anthem, that maybe they should, quote, shouldn't be in the country?
I mean, what more can you say? I mean, anybody who knows the history of our country, knows what our country is founded upon, would find these comments very unpatriotic, very questionable, especially coming from the President of the United States. So it's very disheartening, very disappointed, but at this stage, I can't say that I'm surprised.
Earlier, I know today at a press conference, you called the president an idiot, plain and simple. Is that how you see him? And do you think he just doesn't understand what these protests are about, or do you think he just has another motive?
Honestly, I don't know what it is. You know, I would like to claim ignorance on his behalf, but I think, again, at this stage, it continues to perpetuate itself in a way that shows a lack of empathy. And when you continuously do that, when you have an opportunity to discuss these very important topics with people who care so desperately about these topics and about the things that are happening in our communities, you can't claim ignorance at that point. So yeah, I do, of course, stand by my statement.
You use the word empathy, and I know that's a word I've seen in print you use a lot. It's a word that's important to me as a reporter. I'm wondering why you believe empathy is so important, especially at this time, and why you believe that there's not enough of it right now.
I mean, you see it play out in the media every day. You see it play out in social media. The conversations that I've had with friends that I grew up with back home, there's just a lack of empathy. And truly what it comes down to is that I'm an African-American male. Anderson Cooper, you have experiences that I haven't experienced as an African-American male. And I have experiences that you haven't experienced. And so for you to tell me, or for anybody to tell you, that I know what it's like to be in your shoes, it's just false and it's incorrect. And the truth of the matter is that in order to do that, in order to take a step back and say, you know what, there's some things that I don't know, some things that I could learn from you, that's being empathetic. And I think that in this entire conversation, that's what we've been lacking the most, is the opportunity to be empathetic, to learn from one another and see each other as human beings in this whole topic.
And where is that band who so vauntingly swore that the havoc of war and the battle's confusion, a home and a country, should leave us no more? Their blood has washed out their foul footsteps, pollution. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave, and the star-spangled banner in triumph doth wave o'er the land of the free. Some of those prairies he mentioned slaves in the Southern Omen songwriter Francis Scott Key. So maybe the free ones are the slave owners. Key represented as clients who incorporate their return of their slave property. And the home of the brave. I'm looking at you, Tommy Smith, John Carlos, Jackie Robinson, and Colin Kaepernick.
Rose in opposition to that amendment in the Senate. When he spoke, everyone knew that they were listening to a former Navy SEAL who lost half of his right leg in Vietnam and had been given the Medal of Honor by Republican President Richard Nixon during the war.
To take the American flag and use it, not just to perhaps win the majority in the Senate, not just perhaps to win a few elections in November, that's the least of what they'll accomplish. The greatest victory, if you can call it a victory, is the Republican president the leader of the United States of America, at a time when we've got a great opportunity to use this moment in history when peace is breaking out all over. He will divide the nation again. That's what he's doing. Not rallying Americans to respect the flag, not rallying Americans to respect freedom, but by using it as a political issue to divide America again, he gains a marginal political advantage and loses a great deal as well.
We're joined now by Richard Allen Smith, a contributor for Esquire, who's also an Afghanistan war veteran, back with us, Jason Johnson. And Richard, the words Bob Kerrey was using about this kind of use of the flag for divisiveness, political divisiveness, you could take some of those lines and they sound perfectly appropriate to what we're watching today.
They absolutely do, and that's exactly what Trump's trying to do. But I want to point out real quick that this protest, that players' protest, is not about the flag. It's not about the anthem. It's about Anthony Lamar Smith, who was killed by a St. Louis police officer who said, we're going to kill this guy, before he then killed this guy, and just this month was acquitted in his trial. It's about Tamir Rice. It's about Mike Brown. It's about the repeated incidents of black people being murdered by law enforcement in America with impunity. And I'm glad they're doing it.
Richard, as an Afghanistan veteran, what is your reaction to what the president says when he says they fought for our flag, they fought for our national anthem?
I didn't fight for any flag or anthem, and I don't know anybody that did fight for a flag or anthem. The guys that I went to war with, they fought for the guy to their left and to their right. Not any piece of cloth or whatever that symbolizes. That's what I think of what Trump said. Who said he's ashamed today? This is a man who has no capacity for shame. He's a serial sexual predator and a bigot. He's made his career about devaluing the lives of black and brown people, going back to the Central Park Five. This is absolutely ridiculous. This has no impact on anybody that's ever served that I know, and I'm just ashamed that this is our president and this is the kind of thing that he spends his time talking about.
Jason, there he is in the Rose Garden with a foreign leader, and he can't get himself away from the flag and the national anthem.
I mean, first and foremost, he didn't know the difference between a president and a prime minister, as he tweeted out, didn't have the name right. But yes, it just shows the focus of this presidency, right? You don't want to focus on health care. You don't want to focus on Puerto Rico. You want to focus on people that you think you can beat up on. And that's been one of the big issues here. Donald Trump thinks, hey, I can get a victory. I can talk about entitled black athletes who make too much money. He thinks that's going to be successful for him. The problem is there is an extent to which you can run outrage, and then it runs out. How angry are people going to be? They're going to keep watching football. They're going to keep watching Cam Newton and Russell Wilson and Tom Brady. So this is a losing proposition for him, and he can keep beating that same racist drum. It's not going to change the reality of his failed presidency.
And Richard, one of the differences, or may not be a difference, but in the 1990 version of this with the Republicans in Washington, it was an extremely calculated play. They were doing this very particularly for calculated political advantage. Their pollster, Bob Teeter, calculated how it would work for them. It's not clear that this was such a real political calculation by Donald Trump. Might have been, but we never know whether it was just something that came out off the top of his head or whether there was any calculation behind it.
I mean, I think it's absolutely calculated. This is what this man does. He tries to set up debates about you're either on the side of him and America or you're on the side of black people, because you can't see both, or brown people. And I just encourage my colleague that's on here with me next time that he starts naming off NFL quarterbacks, he remembers Trevor Siemian out here in Denver.
Does he count as a quarterback?
Yeah. And Jason, this reverence for the flag for Donald Trump apparently extends to the Confederate flag that so many of his followers, we don't know how many followers, but plenty of Donald Trump supporters wave the Confederate flag sometimes more than the American flag.
Yeah, at NASCAR, in Charlottesville, and tons of different places. You know, the degree to which somebody is offended by the flag is the degree to which you want to use it for whatever political motivations that the president happens to have. But here's the other thing. When you talk about these notions of respect, he doesn't have credibility to talk about respect. And no one in his administration, including his spokesperson Sanders and press secretary, no one seems to want to talk about the core issue. What are you and Jeff Sessions actually going to do about unarmed black people being murdered? That's an issue. That's an actual concern. Do something about that policy-wise. But instead, you'd rather say this is about the flag, this is about ungrateful black people, all these things that are missing. And I think also what it exposes, and this is a larger issue that he doesn't seem to realize on why so many owners are angry, it makes football unhappy for everybody. Nobody wants their entertainment to become a litmus test for where your politics are. People just want to be able to watch the games, and he's ruined that for conservatives and liberals.
Using this stuff under fair use, And also remember to like and subscribe this channel.
Mr.